Why is it that almost every child begins life bursting with curiosity, yet by the time they leave school, that spark has almost vanished? Have you ever noticed how young children ask endless questions about everything, but teenagers ask almost none? Where does that hunger go? The brutal answer: it's destroyed, systematically. Arthur Schopenhauer once observed that most people never develop independent thought, not because they lack intelligence, but because their capacity for originality was suffocated in childhood. Schools, instead of nurturing the natural flame of curiosity, pour water over it with structure, obedience, and punishment. A child enters school alive with questions. By the end, they've learned not to ask, but to wait until they're told the correct answer. Think about the design of school. The bell doesn't just ring, it conditions. It teaches you that your time doesn't belong to you. It belongs to an authority. The desk rows don't just organize students, they normalize passivity. The grading system doesn't just measure learning, it trains you to fear mistakes and chase external approval. By the time you're 18, you no longer trust your own judgment. You trust marks, scores, and rankings. In other words, school exchanges your inner compass for someone else's scoreboard. Nietzsche hated this. To him, these education factories were designed not to create free spirits, but tame animals. Society does not want thinkers who question. It wants workers who obey. The surest way to corrupt a youth, Nietzsche warned, is to teach him to admire those who think alike rather than those who think differently. And isn't that exactly what schools do? Conform and you're praised, rebel and you're punished. Here's the value for you. Once you see this pattern, you realize why most people never break out of mediocrity. It's not that they're stupid, it's that they were trained from childhood to trade curiosity for conformity. They were rewarded for memorization, not imagination. They were told success is measured by grades, titles, and approval. By the time they're adults, they've forgotten how to think for themselves. They're clever parrots, not independent minds. But here's the curious part. Some people resist. Some children never fully submit. They question, they disobey, they get labeled difficult. These are often the very people who later become innovators, artists, or leaders. Why? Because their curiosity survived the system's attempt to kill it. And Schopenhauer was right. Genius is not about being smarter. It's about protecting your independence from being destroyed. So ask yourself, how much of your thinking is truly yours, and how much is just the echo of what you were trained to believe since childhood? That question alone can begin to unravel the chains. We'll explore how this conditioning doesn't stop with graduation. It follows you into adulthood, into your job, your beliefs, even your ambitions. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer both warned, if you do not break free, you will remain an obedient slave long after the school bell stops ringing. You might think the moment you leave school is the moment freedom begins, but it's not. For most people, the chains have already shifted. They've moved from external punishment to internalized obedience, from bells and teachers to alarms, bosses and societal expectations. School doesn't just teach facts, it programs the mind. And that programming follows you long after graduation. Take a moment and examine life around you. Most adults live lives that feel like extensions of school. Schedules dictate your day, deadlines dictate your worth, and authority figures define your rules. The cubicle replaces the classroom. The report card is now your paycheck. Grades are replaced with performance reviews. The content changes, but the system, the invisible structure, remains. Why? Because the goal of schooling was never to educate, it was to domesticate. Nietzsche referred to this as the domestication of man. Society does not want you to think, it wants you to obey. It wants the masses productive, predictable, and unthinking. A genius or a free spirit is dangerous. They might disrupt the order, challenge authority, and question the rules. So from childhood, systems are designed to break your natural independence, to train your brain to value conformity over curiosity, safety over freedom. Schopenhauer was even more precise. He argued that most people are not merely lazy or unmotivated, They are the product of early conditioning that has suppressed their ability to act independently. Intelligence is not destroyed. It is redirected toward obedience, memorization, and approval-seeking. The result? Adults with sharp minds but domesticated wills. They are clever but spiritually empty. They know facts but not truths. They are efficient cogs, not creators. Notice the patterns. Why do so many adults settle for small, predictable lives? It's not lack of potential. It's fear, habit, and conditioning. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping outside the roles assigned to them long ago. School trained you to chase grades, awards, and approval. Adulthood now trains you to chase salaries, promotions, and societal validation. You are rewarded for obedience and punished for questioning, and the cycle is invisible because it feels normal. Consider the mental consequences. The average adult often cannot think independently. Opinions, beliefs, and fears are absorbed from the media, authority figures, and social circles without analysis. The curious child that once asked why has been replaced by an adult who asks, "Is this allowed?" Most people never stop to question if the life they are living is theirs, or if it was written for them decades ago in a classroom. Here's where it becomes even more insidious. Obedience breeds shallow security. Adults mistake comfort for freedom. The same people who were told to follow rules in school now follow office protocols, social norms, and trends with equal rigidity. They might appear successful, but they are mentally shackled. Their creativity, intuition, and courage were slowly eroded from childhood onward. They don't even notice their chains because society has conditioned them to see chains as structure. Nietzsche called this the slave mentality. It's the psychological condition where humans surrender their potential for greatness for predictability, safety, and social approval. Schopenhauer would describe it as the internalization of authority, the moment when fear of judgment becomes stronger than desire for truth. Together, these forces ensure that the majority never challenges mediocrity. They embrace it. They live lives designed for compliance, not freedom. But there is a spark left for those who notice. If you feel restless, uneasy, or dissatisfied with the roles you play, that is not failure. It is the remnants of the independent mind the system tried to suppress. That child inside you, the one who questioned everything, still exists. The task is not to destroy society, but to reclaim your mind from it, to awaken your curiosity, critical thinking, and courage that school systematically trained you to ignore. And here's a chilling thought. Most people never realize they've been trained. They continue the patterns, pass them to their children, and marvel at how normal life feels. Meanwhile, the systems that domesticated them grow stronger. The chains of obedience, invisibly forged in classrooms, extend across generations. You are surrounded by people conditioned to be docile, unquestioning, and predictable. That is the real legacy of schooling. Now we will uncover how to break free from this lifelong conditioning. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche both hinted at a path to reclaiming true independence, but it requires courage, awareness, and a ruthless willingness to reject what the world has taught you. Only then can you escape the manufactured mediocrity that follows you from childhood into adulthood. By now, the truth should be unsettling. Most of what you were taught as a child was not designed to free your mind. It was designed to contain it. The bells, the desks, the grades, the authority, they all shaped you into compliance before you even realized it. But here's the good news. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. If you can see the chains, you can start to break them. The first step is radical self-awareness. Nietzsche believed that every individual must confront the illusions that bind them. Ask yourself, how much of your thinking, your choices, your desires are truly yours? Which beliefs did you inherit from teachers, parents, peers, or society? And which did you form through independent reasoning? Most adults can't answer this because they've been trained to accept authority as truth. Start observing yourself. Journal your thoughts. Question every assumption. The mind that notices its own programming begins to regain control. Next is unlearning obedience. School trained you to follow instructions without question. To reclaim independence, you must practice saying no to internalized commands. This doesn't mean rejecting authority blindly, but testing it. Why am I doing this? Is this aligned with my values or someone else's agenda? Schopenhauer emphasized that genius emerges from the ability to think independently, to act according to one's inner compass rather than external approval. Every time you challenge a conditioned impulse, you exercise freedom. The third step is curiosity over comfort. From childhood, the system taught you to prioritize safety, predictability, and social approval. Nietzsche argued that greatness belongs to those willing to risk discomfort and challenge norms. Read books that contradict your worldview. Seek out experiences that make you uncomfortable. Ask questions that people around you avoid. Each act of intellectual courage strengthens the part of your mind that school tried to crush. Fourth, cultivate solitude and reflection. Mass education fills minds with noise, distractions, and repetition. Independence grows in silence. Spend time alone, not scrolling, not binge-watching, not consuming ready-made ideas. Walk, meditate, write, think. The more comfortable you become with your own thoughts, the less influence the programming of your youth can exert. Nietzsche described the solitary thinker as the one capable of creating new values independent of herd morality. Solitude is not loneliness. It is a laboratory for reclaiming your mind. Fifth, seek mentors and peers who challenge you. Not everyone around you will support your independence. They might feel threatened. But alliances with other awake minds create feedback loops that reinforce clarity. Schopenhauer noted that isolated geniuses often remain frustrated until they find even one kindred spirit. One conversation with someone who thinks differently can shatter decades of conditioned mediocrity. Value depth over numbers. Sixth, retrain your desire for approval. School trained you to crave grades, praise, and social validation. Nietzsche warned that seeking external approval enslaves the spirit. Begin choosing actions based on integrity, curiosity, and truth, even when unpopular. Each choice builds autonomy. Slowly, the need for approval weakens, and with it, the chains that school imposed begin to loosen. Finally, embrace your inner rebel. Both Schopenhauer and Nietzsche saw the rebel mind as the seed of freedom. To think independently is to be at odds with the herd. You will feel friction, discomfort, and sometimes isolation. That is the cost of reclaiming your mind. But the reward is immense. Clarity, creativity, courage, and a life aligned with your own values rather than someone else's curriculum. Breaking free doesn't happen overnight. It is a process of unlearning, questioning, and practicing intellectual bravery every day. Each act of conscious choice chips away at the mental prison constructed since childhood. The child who once asked endless questions is not lost. You can awaken that curiosity, sharpen it with discipline, and let it guide your life. And here's the ultimate insight. Once you reclaim your mind, you cannot be controlled. You will see the herd, the authority, the societal scripts for what they are. You will operate from a higher vantage point, making decisions based on understanding, not fear. That is the legacy Schopenhauer and Nietzsche left us. True education is not obedience. It is liberation. It is the ability to think, feel, and act independently in a world determined to suppress exactly that. Escape school's mental chains, awaken the curious child inside you, and you will discover the dangerous, beautiful power of a mind that refuses to be tamed.